Gus Hansen, pure poker genius, going after his 4th WPT title here tonight. $22 million out in front of him, and David Chiu with about $4.3 million.
Right now, Vince, he's going to have to change gears in my mind if he wants to take down this title.
And he looks down at an ace-6 of hearts, makes it $510,000 to go.
Oh, and Gus Hansen has picked up the best hand he's seen all night long. 2 kings.
I'm all in.
He quickly says all in with that.
He's going all in here.
He wants to knock this out in one hand.
Well, Vince, that could very well happen. David Chiu just smiling when Gus goes all in on him. But that's only on the outside, folks. On the inside, I guarantee you, his stomach is churning right now.
Now, this is a pretty big over-raise here. It's an additional close to $4 million for David Chiu, but it's sneaky by Gus because it's so much.
Well, Vince, against a player like Gus Hansen, it's hard to lay down.
Yeah.
Ace-6 suited, I can tell you that, in a heads-up situation. Could this heads-up battle possibly be over in one hand? David Chiu is going to lay down the ace-6 of hearts.
He mucks the hand. How do you do that?
Well, David Chiu does make the great laydown.
All right, Gus Hansen now with the button. And he looks down at a pretty strong king-jack offsuit.
And he's just limping in, Vince, not raising here. I'm very surprised by that.
Well, he's going to mix up his play. And David Chiu with just a 5 deuce of clubs, content to see the flop.
Well, happy to see a free flop, especially against Gus Hansen. That doesn't happen very often. And here it comes. It's ace-8-8. No help to either player.
Action on Chiu, and he quickly checks.
Now it's over to Gus.
Yeah, he's going to get chips out. Going to put pressure on. $160,000.
Now, Vince, there's no way David Chiu's going to put Gus on an ace in his hand because he didn't raise before the flop. And probably doesn't think he would bet 3/8 if he'd flopped 3/8 either. So right now, you see the wheels churning in David's mind. But still, he just has a 5 deuce. He has absolutely nothing himself. Vince, he's just calling here. Now, folks, he's making this call on the flop because he's planning later on in this hand to make a bet at this pot and try to win it. When a guy just calls you with a flop like this, it's scarier than when he comes over the top of you. This is what real poker players do. Let's see if it works for him.
A lot of imagination going on here. Now it's a 4, gives him an inside straight draw. And just like you said, he was calling there to make a bet and steal it, and that's what he's going to do. $430,000.
And now let's see if Gus can figure it out. I don't think Gus is going to put him on an ace either, Vince, because he didn't raise it before the flop either after Gus limped in. But he might be scared he's got something. He did call a bet on the flop and then lead out and bet on the turn. And Gus lays down the king-jack. That is just a terrific play by David Chiu right there. You get a glimpse of the greatness we've been talking about, even though we haven't seen him play many hands today. But even with this pot, Vince, he's still 6-1 behind in chip count. But could this be the first step back for David Chiu to turn this thing around?
David first to act, pair of 5s.
Well, any pair in a heads-up situation is a big hand. You only pick up a pair and hold them about 1 hand out of 17 deals, so anytime you get one, you don't figure your opponent has one.
And yes, he is going to raise. Going to make it $505,000 to go.
Oh, and ironically, Gus has a pair himself. Unfortunately for him, it's a smaller pair.
Deuces.
And Vince, if you're sitting in Gus's seat right now, you just may come right over the top there with the 2 deuces. He's doing it.
That's what he's doing.
He's going all in. I don't blame him at all for making this play. You just don't expect your opponent to have a pair when you're playing heads up. Most of the time they don't. But Vince, still, if you're in David's situation, at worst you figure your opponent's got 2 overcards in this spot. And if he's got the overpair, it's pretty much doom and gloom for you. There's a lot of pressure on you here. David is going for it, and what a time he's picked. It's pair over pair.
I have the only hand I lost with earlier today. Deuces?
Well, David Chiu, delighted to see that. You cannot be in a better spot than this before the flop, where you've got an overpair to your opponent's underpair, and you got both flush cards cut off, as well as the straight cards cut off.
For David Chiu, in a great position right now to double up and be right back in there.
Well, Vince, we've seen Gus Hansen hit lightning several times at this final table to knock a couple players out.
Here's the first 3 cards.
Everybody holding their breath. Well, the flop has come King-Jack 7 with 2 diamonds.
Don't pay the board.
So far, so good for David Chiu. He's out in front with the 2 5s. Gus needs a deuce to win the pot. If the board pairs twice, he would split the pot, and right now, he would love to get a chop out of this. Well, there's one pair on the board. David Chiu shaking his head no. He's seen this show too many times already tonight.
I say don't pay the board.
Even if he splits this pot, it would be a very bad beat for David Chiu, but Gus Hansen needs a deuce to win. A king or a jack would give him a split. Anything else, David Chiu will double up.
Going down to the river. Can Gus spike his card?
Well,
No.
it's a queen. So David Chiu nods his head in a happy mode.
All right, back down to the felt. It's on Gus Hansen.
Gus looks down at the queen 8 offsuit. He understands that that's a slight favorite over a 2-card random hand. That's good enough for him to raise with. He's going to make it $520,000 to go.
David Chiu with a 9-10 of clubs. Likes that hand. He's going to call.
And then he's got those suited connectors that we all like to see flops with, so David's made the call. And what a flop for David Chiu. He has flopped a flush. Now he's got to try to figure out how he can get chips out of Gus. The best way to do it is to check, and that's what he's done. Gus is reaching for chips like he's going to make the continuation bet, even though he has no hand and no draw.
And he is going to bet it. It looks like $560,000. That is a dream come true if you're David.
Well, we know David's going to play this pot. The question is, do you want to just dry call here, as we say, and hope Gus continues to bet this hand for you? There you see Daniel Negreanu, former WPT Player of the Year, in the house watching, as is Eric Lindgren, another WPT Player of the Year. And David is coming right over the top. He's going to raise it right here.
Yep.
Another $660,000. I must say I'm a little surprised that David Chiu would raise it in this situation. You're virtually pot committed when you flop a flush. You're never getting out of this hand. Just in case Gus has nothing like he does, why wouldn't he just call and hope he continues to bet at it?
Gus with nothing here. Is he going to get crazy and try some silly over the top? That is what David is hoping, of course. But no, he's not going to. He makes the nice lay down. Hansen holding a king deuce of spades.
He's going to raise it here. Makes it $520,000 to go. And again, David Chiu going to make the call out of the big blind. This time, David has the ace-5. Here comes the flop. It's come 8-8-6 with 2 spades. David has the best hand with ace-high, but Gus now has a flush draw.
Yes, he does. David checking his hand, and Gus, he's coming out to play with his 4 flush. $635,000 bet.
David only has ace-high, but you can see that skeptical look of his. He thinks it could be the best hand. And he's going to make the call with the ace-high. Now, folks, here he's not calling with no hand. He's calling because he really believes ace-high is the best hand. And indeed it is at the moment.
Here we go with the turn card. It's a 5. Giving David Chiu 5s and 8s.
Again, David checks.
And Gus still with his 4 flush.
Well, Vince, many players would check right here. Remember, he bet on the flop and got called. Your opponent has to have something when it comes 8-8-6, whether it's some type of straight draw, possibly a flush draw. I mean, the only hand that Gus can conceivably beat right now is a 9-10. But if David has that hand, then his king high is the best hand. But in my view, Vince, there's no way Gus can figure he's got the best hand now. But it doesn't mean that Gus couldn't drive him off a hand if he makes a big bet here. Remember, he's got a free card to draw to a flush if he wants to take it. But that's not Gus's style. He's going to lead right out and bet, and a healthy bet, $1.2 million with the flush draw.
He's going to try to muscle David.
And Vince, in David's mind, he's got to figure all he can beat is a bluff in this situation.
But a quick call by David. How about this call?
Well, David just believes he's got the best hand here. He's going with it. He makes the call with the 2 5s.
This is just a great call.
He's still got to dodge a king or a spade, remember, to win this pot, and then call perhaps another bet on the river.
That is going to slow down Gus. River card coming up. He has to hit his flush. Can he get lucky? No.
The deuce of hearts comes off. This gives Gus 2 pair now as well. Yeah. Again, David checks the 5s. Gus has got enough now where he can check on the end.
I got a pair.
But it's not going to do him any good. David Chiu is going to win this pot with 8s and 5s. Give him some credit. He made a tough call on the flop and a tough call on the turn, in my view. David Chiu taking down this pot.
David Chiu has gotten some momentum lately.
And Vance, he has cut this chip lead down to less than 2-1.
Starting to pick it up here, and David with just a 9-6 of hearts is going to raise, making it 530,000 to go.
When Gus Hansen looks down at the dream hand, the best hand possible, 2 aces. And he picked up 2 kings earlier against David. Raised it and didn't get any action. Let's see what he does this time with the 2 aces. And things have turned around for David, but if you're sitting in Gus's seat, you're saying to yourself, yes, this is the time. I've got him. How can I reel him in?
Taking his time here. Going to try to figure out how to extricate the maximum amount without shaking your fish loose.
Gus is going to raise it.
Yeah, an additional 880.
Yeah, pretty good size raise there.
Usually the sign of a quality hand, that type of raise.
And what he's hoping for, of course, is that David Chiu makes some kind of move and comes over the top of him to try to steal this pot.
Fortunate for him, he's got a 9-6 of hearts, not very good. He's raising with just a mediocrity at best. Can't think he can make this call or get crazy.
Well, Vince, look at Gus just staring down at the table. He's saying to himself, please, 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 please raise me, please. But no, David gets away from his hand. A nice lay down again by David Chiu. Once Gus had 2 kings, David got away from an ace high. And this time, Gus with the 2 aces, and David mucks his hand again. Very frustrating if you're sitting in Gus's seat when that happens.
Gus has a premium hand here, King Jack of Hearts.
Yep, he's got the Kojak suited. It comes in for 750,000.
Right behind him, David Chiu looks down at a Queen 4 of Hearts.
Well, he's going to defend, Vince.
Sure.
He's making the call here with the Queen 4 hearts. So David better hope hearts don't flop out there. He could be in serious trouble.
Oh, and it's a Queen 7 deuce. Queens for David Chiu.
Well, nice flop for David. He's going to check here. And Gus does not make the continuation bet here. Well, that's something you don't see often.
Turn card coming up. It's a 4. Diamonds giving Chiu 2 pair.
Again, David checks. Well, he is trying to reel Gus in here.
Now, there is 3 diamonds out there.
There's no way he's going to put Gus on a flush at this point. He would suspect that Gus would have bet a 4 flush on the flop had he had one.
Is Gus going to bet into this here?
He has nothing but a king jack, but he's going to fire at this pot. 900,000. He's betting with no hand and no draw.
Now, you got to think David feels he's in front.
You know, David's going to play this pot. The question is, do you just call here or just come over the top of Gus right now? With the 3 diamonds out there, just in fear another diamond might come off. You think he might just raise it here?
Is he going to push? No, he's just calling.
Well, he's just calling with 2 pair. No card. Gus Hansen can catch to win the pot. Here comes that river card. 9 of diamonds comes off.
And another diamond.
Well, that is not the card that David wanted to see. He's going to check the 2 pair.
And Gus hitting nothing here, but...
Well, Vince, the only way Gus can win this pot is to bet at it. But he's got to recognize that when David called on the turn, he has something. He's either got 1 pair, 2 pair, or a flush draw. Had to have one of those hands to call the $900,000 bet. Gus has got to try to figure out which one. If he puts him on the pair or 2 pair, he might want to try to bluff at it with the 4 flush. If not, he'll just check it down and give up the pot. Just riffling his chips over there. In a predicament here. Over $3.3 million in this pot. Vince, he is going to bet $2 million.
Almost uncallable. What pressure Gus Hansen is putting on David Chiu.
Vince, he knows there's no way Gus is going to bet a pair or 2 pair. He's just going to check it down. He's either on a stone bluff or he's got the flush. There is no in between here.
However, if he should make this call, got news for you. He'd be the new chip leader.
He's making the call. No. Fake me out there.
Boy, oh boy, got us both excited. Look at Gus. He's doing this little tic-tac-toe thing.
Well, he's just ignoring him.
Zen moves.
He did not change from playing that little game even when David Chiu was acting like he was calling. Now David Chiu shaking his head no. chastising himself for not betting on the flop and raising on the turn. Because look at the predicament he's got himself into now.
Sorry, guys. No problem.
See, that's nice. I like a man when he takes a lot of time says sorry. He has consideration that there's a lot of time.
Well, Vince, he wants Gus to look up at him, but Gus is not doing it. He's just playing his little game over there.
I'm not interested. I don't care game. What is that?
That's Gus's game right now. With the chips. If David lays this hand down, Gus Hansen will win a pot that he had no business winning whatsoever. Oh. David lays down the best hand. He gave Gus credit for having a flush there.
If you enjoy our videos and would like to see more, make sure to check out the links in the description. Also, make sure to comment below what you would like to see next, and we will work on your ideas as soon as possible.
Looks down to the 8-5 offsuit with the buttons. Gonna raise.
Well, making what we call a position raise here. Comes in for $775,000. But that play is not going to work because David Chiu finds 2 queens in the blind. Wow.
What to do with them?
475.
Against Gus Hansen, I would think he just raised right now here. Because we know Gus likes to defend after he puts the money in the pot.
Oh, no sneaky play, and he is going to bump it.
Yep, he's going to bump it, and a healthy raise at that. Over $1 million raise here by David Chiu.
Saying, if you want to outdraw me, I'm going to make you pay, Gus. Now, Gus just with a measly 8-5.
Pretty easy getaway in my mind here.
You got to think, hey, listen, he took a shot, but...
You took your stab at the pot by raising on the button.
It's a lot of money. It's $1.1 million in addition. Gus Hansen's going to call this.
Wow, what a call by Gus Hansen here. Calls over $1 million re-raise.
Just loves to gamble.
With an 8-5 offsuit.
Oh.
It's a play I'm not really fond of, Vince, but let's see if it works for him. And here comes the flop. Well, the flop comes Jack, 6-3, all spades.
It's on David first. He's got the overpair and a spade.
Gus has nothing but the 8 of spades. A lot of money in the pot right now, over $3.7 million. So even though David Chiu has a monstrous hand, an overpair and a flush draw, with so much money out there, you just can't imagine he'll check it. How much could he bet to possibly get Gus to keep playing this hand? That's the question.
These are the poker moments that are absolutely essential to taking a title like this. And yes, he is going to bet $1.6 million. Sticking it in there.
Well, I love this bet, Vince. There's over $3.7 million in the pot. He's only betting $1.6 million, less than half the size of the pot, trying to reel Gus in. Let's see if it works.
Well, Gus, he does have a flush draw. He's thinking, is this guy trying to pull a fast one on me?
As we can see, he's about drawing dead here. He'd have to hit 2 runners to make a straight, 2 cards that are an 8 and a 5. Vince, he got himself in trouble by calling over $1 million bet before the flop. Now he's flopped a flush draw. It's not a great flush draw. Do you want to put in $1.6 million more? If you know nothing else, folks, you know Gus Hansen likes to fight for every pot. He just hates to give up a hand. But he could be jeopardizing some serious chips here.
He's going to make this call.
Wow. Well, Gus Hansen makes the call, drawn virtually dead. Yes, he could hit 2 runners to make a straight. He could also hit 2 running cards that are an 8 and a 5. That's not a spade, but not fond of that call at all by Gus Hansen. But let's see what happens.
This could be Armageddon here for Gus Hansen.
Here comes a turn card. The 6 of clubs comes off. There is no card in the deck Gus Hansen can win this pot with. He is drawing stone dead.
Action's going to David, though. He's still in first position.
And now David Chiu has got to figure things out here. Wow. What does he have? Wouldn't he have moved all in if he had the ace or king of spade on that flop? Did he flop top pair and just wants to see if a spade's going to come off before he makes his move? Was he trapping me all the time when he made that call? This is the kind of stuff you have to think about if you're David Chiu right now. Just can't imagine he's not going to bet here since he's only got about $5 million left. And certainly Gus could have made 3 6s on the turn, but If you've got the overpair and the flush draw, you're never getting away from this hand.
I'm all in.
Yeah, he's going to do it. He's saying, look,
Yep.
if he has
Moving
a
all
6,
in.
that's tough luck. He is going to push it. $5,175,000.
Gus can't stand that kind of firepower, so he goes out. But Vince, in my mind, he put in $2.6 million more in that pot than he should have. He called the first $1 million raise with an 8-5 offsuit, which I wasn't crazy about. And then he put another $1.6 million in there on the flop. But credit the amount that David Chiu bet on the flop there. And he reeled Gus in to make that call for another $1.6 million. One time in this heads-up battle, Gus had over a 6-1 chip lead. David Chiu has closed that gap. And folks, I got to tell you, if David Chiu comes back and wins this tournament, it's certainly going to be one of the great comeback wins in the history of poker.
Gus Hansen with a Jack-6 is going to raise it up. Makes it $800,000 to go.
Well, he may have lost some pots, Vince, but he hasn't lost his aggressiveness. But David Chiu quickly calls him with a 9-7 of hearts. Got one of those hands you want to see a flop with.
We're going to see the flop, and here it comes. It's a 5-5-4.
You know, 2 diamonds out there. There's no help to either player. David quickly checks.
And right behind him, Gus Hansen's going to check.
Well, Gus gives it the wind-up. He checks right behind him.
Turn card comes up, an ace of spades.
Gus still has the best hand with the jack high. David checks.
And again, Gus with the little wind-up check. Going to the river.
Well, a 9 comes off. David Chiu has made 2 9s on the river to take the lead. And again, David checks. Will Gus wind it up one more time and check it down here? There's the cards lie. He's beat. And he is going to bet now $900,000. And Vince, I think David Chiu is going to make the call here. He's got 9s and 5s with an ace kicker. The only way he can be beat is if Gus was slow playing this hand, where he had an ace in his hand or he flopped 3 5s.
Well, he did raise before the flop. He could have an ace in his hand. It's possible, but we know better.
You're right. It's so much easier when you can see the cards. When you're sitting at that table, you're scared to death the guy's got a big hand when he bets $900,000 on the river. There you see 2 former WPT Players of the Year, Eric Lindgren and Daniel Negreanu, chatting about what these guys have. David Chiu has been right on almost every read in this situation when Gus has bet on the river so far in this heads-up battle. Will he make the right decision once again? Well, David is going to make the call.
I have a jack.
He's going to win this pot with 2 pair.
Excellent call there.
So a nice call by David Chiu. And Vince, Gus Hansen's stomach has got to be doing somersaults right now. There you see a very worried look on Gus Hansen's face. He knows he could have bet that hand on the flop. He could have bet it on the turn. He had the best hand both of those times. Made the mistake of betting on the river.
And for the first time tonight, David Chiu is now our chip leader with a little bit over $14 million. Gus goes down to about $13 million.
What a comeback by David Chiu. Nothing going right for him.
David Chiu now with the button. He's got an 8-7 this time. And he's going to raise. He's going to make it $675,000 to go.
Well, when you got momentum on your side, you raise with these kind of hands on the button.
Gus Hansen looking down at a king deuce.
Gus Hansen not going anywhere. He's got the king high, a little bit on tilt. He makes the call with the king deuce offsuit. Has the best hand with the king high. Let's see how this one develops.
There's the flop, 10-6-3. There's 2 diamonds. Inside straight draw for David Chiu.
Well, Gus out in front with the king high. He checks. David's got the gut shot straight draw. 9 would give him a straight, but he checks quickly also. Now the 4 hearts comes off. David Chiu has a 2-way straight draw now. It gives Gus a straight draw as well, but if a 5 comes off there, he's going to lose this pot. But Gus Hansen reaching for chips with the king high.
He's going to try to fluff and puff this one. $850,000 bet.
Well, he's got the best hand right now with the king high.
David is just studying Gus. I mean, Gus just doesn't look like the same guy.
Action's on David Chiu. Let's see what he's going to do. The 4 gives him a 2-way straight draw. He could also win if a 7 or an 8 comes up.
Raise it.
And you talk about a poker play, folks. Right here it is. David is coming over the top with a raise, and a healthy raise of $1.5 million.
And it's going to work. Gus has to muck his hand. We're seeing David Chiu change gears brilliantly.
And what a heads-up battle we're witnessing between Gus Hansen and David Chiu. It is anybody's game.
Gus Hansen, 10-8 off suit. And he is going to raise, going to make it $750,000 with 10 high.
Well, he stays aggressive on the button, but David's going to call him with the ace-9 of spade. Does not raise with it, just makes the call. Here comes the flop. Oh, what a flop.
Oh,
it's come ace-10-8. David's flop top pair, but Gus has flopped 2 pair. And Vince, of all the downward spiraling that Gus has done lately in this heads-up battle, he could get all his chips back right here. I don't think David's getting away from this hand, and certainly Gus is not.
Well, David has checked it, and Gus is going to bet 900 grand.
Well, there's a 2-card flush and a 2-card straight out there, so yes, you bet. Vince, I just can't see David getting away from top pair here. He's made the call.
Sure he does.
Gus Hansen out in front with the 2 pair.
Big pot developing between the 2 big guns. Turn card comes up. It's a 5 of spades. That gives a 4 flush to David Chiu as well as his aces.
He leads out and bets $1.2 million with top pair and the 4 flush. And Gus Hansen looks like he's agonizing over there, when in fact he's very joyful right now. He's got the 2 pair, but there's 2 possible flushes out there, possible straights out there. Gus knows the guy called a bet on the flop and now is let out and bet on the turn. He's got to have something. But if he's got 2 pair beat, he's just got him beat. I think Gus is going to have to raise it here.
I'm all in.
Well, there's a raise for you. Gus has gone all in. And folks, we're talking about an $8.6 million raise here. And David Chiu is on his feet. And he's got top pair and a flush draw. He knows he's got outs to win this no matter what Gus has. But in truth, if he puts Gus on ace-jack or ace-queen, he'll be a substantial underdog to win this pot.
If he should call this and get lucky and outdraw Gus, he would become our champion.
Gus about a 2-to-1 favorite, not quite, to win this pot.
If Gus wins this hand, if it holds up and he wins it,
He'll be back to where they started this heads-up battle. Gus will have over $23 million in chips if his hand stands up here.
This is it, boys.
I knew it.
Daniel Negreanu said I knew it, but
yeah, he kind of feels it.
I call.
he's made the call. He's got top pair and a flush draw. Gus Hansen out in front as the cards lie.
Ace high with flush draw.
Not quite a 2-to-1 favorite to win this pot and double up and once again have a commanding chip lead in this tournament.
David shakes his head as he sees the 2 pair.
Knows he's going to have to get lucky now to win this pot. I'm talking about David Chiu. Must catch an ace, a 9, a 5, or a spade. So he certainly has got a lot of outs.
9 a diamond. 5.
Gus Hansen in great shape to double up and get back to about square one where they started this heads-up battle, where Gus had over a 5-to-1 chip lead. Everybody on their feet, anxiously awaiting this river card. If it's an ace, 9, a 5, or a spade, David Chiu will be the WPT World Champion.
Comes the river.
It's an ace! David Chiu has done it! He has come back and won this tournament! Gus Hansen is outdrawn on the river, Vince. He put 3 guys out of this tournament by catching a card on the river. Fate finally does him in when David Chiu catches a card on the river to take down this tournament. Wow!